What's up, folks? Welcome back to Modern Business Podcast. We are also filming this. So for the folks watching on YouTube, thank you for joining and watching us this way. And for the folks on the podcast, we are now launching a video experience. So be sure to go find us there. I will publish the links in the show notes. What I want to talk about today is how Sonic Ice taught me about entrepreneurship and taught me about franchising from a very young age. And what I want to do is share a little bit about my backstory because I haven't talked about myself very much here on the podcast. And it really starts with a baseball diamond because whenever I was young, my dad used to coach my baseball team and a few of my different baseball teams. And we would go to practice, and baseball was a big part of my life growing up, and we would go to practice. And on the way to practice, we would get, the big orange igloo coolers, and we would fill that with ice, and we'd put water in it, we'd bring it to practice. And it came to pass that my dad, everybody really liked Sonic Ice. So it became the thing. Anytime we went to practice, anytime we went to a game, it was Sonic Ice that we got. And it didn't matter if we traveled, we would go. I remember doing tournaments in Baton Rouge. We had some really cool trips to Tampa, Florida, Oklahoma, all over the place, all the way down in Laredo, Texas, and out to the West Coast. And it was a really interesting thing because Sonic Ice taught me a lot about entrepreneurship and a lot about what it means to be a franchise. And so if you think about it, why is that? First and foremost, I'm the product of two really awesome parents because my parents taught me a lot about entrepreneurship and hustle and grind and hard work. And I will probably share a lot more about that in the future because I think there's a lot there. But it's really interesting because at a young age, and I always say, I've understood franchising really since going back to 8 years old because if you think about it, about the Sonic Ice, what was unique about it is because everyone that's had it understands it's unique ice, but it's super consistent. And so it didn't matter if you went to the place in Irving, Texas, where I grew up, or if you went to Tampa, Florida, or wherever, it was always the same ice. And my dad used to point that out and tell me and show me that not only is the ice consistent, but their uniforms are consistent. The branding's consistent. When you push the little button and you order the food and the car hop comes out and brings you the cherry, vanilla, lime, Sprite, or whatever you get, the menu's the same, the experience is the same, and it's consistent. And what he also taught me is that franchising is a model that can help you scale. And I said, Dad, what does that mean, scale? And he said, going back and reflecting, he said, you know how Dick Lear owns Sonic? And I'm like, wow, that's right. And Dick Lear was our neighbor. He lived kind of catty-cornered the street behind me and then catty-cornered. We actually shared fences. And I remember his children were Tyler Lear and Lindsay Lear. And he said, they own the Sonic, but they own the local Sonics in Irving. And so my mind was kind of blown. I was like, wait a minute. So they own Sonic. Wow, that's crazy because it's such a big company and they're all over the place. But then he kind of taught me that, no, it's the local folks. And the reason why we went to the locations that we did is depending on if we were going to game day or going to practice day, it was convenient. But there's tons of Sonics around. But we would always go to the ones that Dick Lear owned. And I just thought that I understood that from an early age. And if you really want to take it a step further, now in hindsight, looking back, it's like there's this local connection that exists that is really tough to exist if you're this massive brand. Because I remember I think one time we had a triple headers and they brought extra ice to us. In the middle of it, and that type of stuff only happens when you have local owners. And the paradox of that is that a lot of people think of a big, massive franchise brand as this corporate entity, and a lot of people don't realize that franchise brands are really the local business owners. And on small business, I remember whatever the weekend is, where it's the small business weekend, shop small business. it's a lot of people don't realize that shopping these big brands is really shopping small business because it's local business owners. And so it was unique that I understood that at a young age. And so you've got this consistency in the Sonic Ice, you've got consistency in the brand standards and guidelines, and you've got this local ownership. And I understood that franchise business model. And so now all of that makes so much sense, where what I'm passionate about today is the intersection of entrepreneurship, B2B technology, and franchising. And there's absolutely roots there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it and kind of share that analogy of how Sonic Ice taught me about franchising, and that entrepreneurs can buy into a system of systems that can help them achieve their version of the American dream. And I thought that was really, really awesome. And so trips to the local Sonic with my dad taught me about franchising to get ice. And if you want to put the quote unquote icing on the cake, and you think about the experience of winning a championship, and you know how you dunk the ice bucket on whether it's the coach or the player, and it's kind of bringing that full circle, is that there's this understanding of how a baseball diamond and Sonic Ice taught me about franchising. I thought that was a little bit unique, and I thought I would share it. So what I'll do for the folks listening on the podcast is I'm going to share this. I'm going to put the YouTube link in the podcast, and for the folks watching on YouTube, I will do the same and link over to the podcast. I will start building. We're also building a Facebook community over at MODRN Business. That's at MODRN Business on Facebook. So be sure to follow us there. Going into 2019, I'll be putting a big focus on building community on the podcast, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, because that's actually on purpose. I haven't been doing that because I've been focusing on building the audience on the podcast, and social technology is actually what I do for a living at a company called Rallyo. And a lot of you folks that listen know that, but now I'm going to start putting a focus on building the audience here at Modern Business, is because I want to share more about myself, and I want to share more about the franchise business model, which I love, and then really entrepreneurship in general. So be sure to follow us. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching if you're watching on YouTube, and cheers.